Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 7th, 2021 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We are glad you're with us this morning. We will begin, as we always do, with an invocation, and we are absolutely blessed, no pardon the pun, please, to have Reverend Eric Coey from First Presbyterian Church to lead us in prayer. I think it's the first time we've been able to do this in more than a year and a half. So, really glad to see you here. Please stand.
And let us pray together. Holy and loving God, we stand before you this morning and thank you for the opportunity to assemble and make decisions on behalf of this county today. I pray for the leadership before me this morning. I pray that you would give them wisdom to govern in the midst of the challenges of our day. I pray for a sense of welfare and understanding for the needs of our people. I also pray for a keen thirst for what is just and what is right, and an ability to work together in harmony. And lastly, I pray for peace in their lives and joy in their daily work. Lord, we lift up this agenda before you today. Bless it, use it for the good of our county. Please give our leaders assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in our county. For we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Magistrate Southard.
Here.
Magistrate Moran.
Here.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate McCollum.
Here.
Magistrate Berry. Here.
Thank you. Lady and gentlemen, you have before you in your packet the minutes of the July 13th, 2021 meeting of Fiscal Court. After a period of review, I entertain a motion to approve those.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other corrections, clarifications, or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a busy agenda today. We're going to start out with opening bids on the project for renovating the front steps of the courthouse, and Charlie Ransom, who helped organize the bids, is actually across the street on the roof of the Judicial Center now with an HVAC technician trying to fix something. So Bill's going to open these bids for us. We do not anticipate making a decision today. We'll take these bids and review them with Charlie and bring back a recommendation next meeting.
Judge, we have 3 bids, looks like. First one I'm opening from is from Rivertown Construction of Newburgh, Indiana. Their bid is $154,995. The second bid I'm opening is from M. Bowling Incorporated of Henderson, Kentucky. Their bid is $111,618. And the third bid is from Hazex Construction, Henderson, Kentucky, $98,000 even.
Okay, we'll gather those up and huddle with Charlie over the next couple weeks. Thank you. And while we got you, Bill, you have something you'd like to send out to bid.
Yeah, we opened bids last fiscal court on the Spotsville Bluff City Road repair job, which was a FEMA slide repair damage. We had 3 bidders. I'm going to make, everybody should have in their package one of these sheets. We neglected on AA's bid to include the tandem axle dump truck on their original bid, so I delayed it a little bit. It would be my recommendation that we go with AA Services with the low bid of $86,450 at this time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept that bid. Any other questions of Bill?
That's with the trucking headed in?
If we need to utilize their triaxles, I asked each of the companies to bid a truck and driver in case we need assistance, because we're trying to keep it down as low as possible on this bid. So if we can utilize our trucks, we will.
Right.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill, you want to talk some more about your needs this coming year with equipment?
Yes, sir. I'd like the court's permission to go out for bid on 2 items. One is a single axle dump truck for our fleet. This is a budgeted item. We will look at state contract bid, and we also want to go out like we did the last time and get contract bids, from private parties. Reason being, we checked with the previous company that we received the last 2 trucks from, and we've been notified that because steel prices have gone up 35%, that they will not be able to hold the price that we got the last 2 units for. So I'm sure that we're going to have to check with the state contract bidding also. Second item I'd like to go out for is also a pickup truck, which is a budgeted item, a 4-wheel drive F-250. This unit will be utilized at the road department, taking into account that we will give it to the supervisor first. That truck will be traded down to the 911 truck, which is on 24/7 call. And that 911 truck will be traded down into the fuel manpower when we send out for our equipment, fueling and getting our people to their equipment. And we will surplus an E350, a 2006 van that we had hand me down from the jail that has exhausted its life. It's in the parks right now.
Make a motion to allow Bill to go ahead and put these out for bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Next, animal control report. Emma Todd, welcome.
Hello.
Good morning.
I promise I won't throw any words at you today, okay? Our year-end numbers, the calls responded to by animal control was 810. The intake of stray dogs were 264. 121 of them were reclaimed by their owners. We are very close to hiring a new operations manager, have narrowed down to 2 candidates, and expect to make an announcement next week. We had a very good display of candidates apply for this job. We were very fortunate. We are still working on the feral cat solution. Grants have been written for community assistance in altering the community cats. The vets in town are very busy and are currently at capacity. We have reached out to Davis County as they are opening their own low-cost spay-neuter clinic to help with this, as well as a group of traveling vets that only focus on community cats called Public Vets. We are hoping to get on both of their schedules to try and have a steady spay or neuter schedule of community cats. Controlling community cat population is a challenging and a long process.
Certainly is.
Yeah, it is.
Been at it a while. Any other questions? Appreciate you ending the year in the black. Thanks for watching the pennies, and good luck on the hiring, and please let us know what we can do to help in any way with that. And how many animal control officers on staff at the moment?
2.
2. Okay. We have room for 3
Yes.
typically? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Keep up the good work.
We don't see any need in having a 3rd one right now.
Right.
It's just money.
Well, keep us surprised. Any other questions?
No, just a comment, Judge. Emma, you know, yesterday that debacle where somebody dropped that puppy off in that pen over, was it Newman Park?
Yes.
Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I'm getting cold chills. I
Yeah.
can't stand for dogs to be.
Yeah, that was, I don't know who it was there that called and I guess rescued that pup before y'all could get there to get him, but boy, that's a shame.
It is a shame.
And it made me mad when I read that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
If we could see how half of these dogs are treated. It's
Well, I
just
mean, it was
wrong.
100 degrees yesterday
Yeah.
and leave him in a pen, set him out and leave him in a pen.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some real idiots running
Yeah,
around, I'm telling you.
yes, there are.
Yeah. I'm done.
No.
Thank you, Emma. I just,
No law against being stupid, he said.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Next in your package, you have the quarterly report from Jailer Amy Brady. I'm going to ask her to come forward and answer any questions about that, and there are a couple other items she wants to give us an update on.
Did y'all hear anything about
And we'll follow that with a couple resolutions related to the jail. But Amy, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Good morning.
Newman?
Quarterly reports. Here recently, we've started getting some of our state inspectors and federal inspectors back. We've had the county judge, magistrates out to the facility, which we're glad to have everyone back in person at the jail. That's great. If you all have had a chance to review the quarterly report, what I'm asking for is if a possibility to go ahead and put the remaining cameras out. We'll need to put those out for bids. There's an attachment to the quarterly report. And when we installed the original cameras, I was able to pay for that out of the commissary account.
You anticipate being able to do that again then?
Yes.
I don't see any reason we would not want her to
No,
take this out to
I'd
bids.
Make a motion to allow her to go out for bids.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Jailer Brady, can you give us an update on how the salary adjustments we made in late last fiscal year are helping all? You seeing more applicants? What do you think?
We're seeing applicants, a lot of applicants, however, it's still hit or miss as far as people returning a call once they're called for an interview. We've hired quite a few, a couple of rehires that have worked in the facility in the past, and hopefully towards the end of the year, maybe September or so, once the unemployment and COVID payments cease, then we'll be able to get some people back to work.
Yeah.
The staffing is every jail across the state. It's the prisons. According to the Department of Corrections, they are actually working the parole officers on weekends in the prisons down at Eddyville. So everyone's struggling right now.
If there's anything we can do to help with anything involving retention or onboarding or training, minus pay scales, which we tried to address, we're open to it. Just let us know.
Thank you. The pace, it has helped. We've actually had a couple of people that left us to go to higher paying jobs that have asked if it would be a possibility on coming back to the jail, and they were actually supervisors on the shifts, so that's really good.
Okay, any other questions about the quarterly report itself? I forget, do we need a motion to accept it? Motion to accept the quarterly report, please.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E-jail and the transition back. Can you give us an update?
sent an email to David Ogle on the issues that the facility had reported that they were having with the e-jail, and he was looking over those and was going to respond in an email. I copied the county attorney on the email. And in a phone conversation with him yesterday, he had went through everything and was traveling from one jail to another, and he said that he would get back with me on that.
Well,
On this particular issue, Jailer Brady and I spoke this morning. I'm worried a little bit about some potential litigation. So I would advise that at this point, we make it clear that there have been significant operational challenges to implementing e-jail, and that we are attempting under that contract to get compliance, and essentially an ultimatum has been given, and that if that is not met, we're going to be evaluating all options under that contract.
Should we not discuss that in executive session?
That's what I was going to say, and if we're going to go beyond that, I think that would
I mean,
probably be
if you got
something that
pending
would be
litigation, yeah.
potential litigation, so.
is there anything more about this we need to discuss today, you think, in executive session, or do we need to wait on news for further action?
I believe at this point, the ball is in e-jail's court, and Jailer Brady is working on contingency plans.
Why don't we wait till we get a response and then see what we might have to do?
That would be my recommendation. I don't know that there's a fiscal court decision yet
Right.
to be made at this point.
Any other thoughts about that?
Have we made a demand on them?
Yes, yes. There's a demand for compliance that was made by Jailer Brady yesterday with well, actually, over the course of
Last week.
implementation, and then was renewed with a very specific punch list of issues that needed to be addressed ASAP.
And he was emailed a stack of papers, just from the staff correspondence and things like that, so.
Well, I'm concerned with possible HIPAA violations and things like that that we can't tolerate.
Part of the punch list.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions about that? Please keep us updated. I'm sure you will. On a little bit more positive note, you've had the chance to maybe help us address a community issue, and I'll ask Circuit Court Clerk McKee to come and join you. I'll leave it up to you to mention what you can, but there's a possibility you might be able to help us with this driver's license office situation, right?
We had been in communication with the state on the possibility of the detention center doing a project, and it would be a real ID and regional driver's license and testing office in Henderson County, kind of like the parole office project.
Right.
And lease it back to the state. The state has been down and reviewed everything. The plans have been drawn up, and they are on the final stages right now. So we've been working on this since last April, and fingers crossed that everything will go through. We should know something as soon as the state police is done reviewing it.
Right. And to refresh everyone's memory, when the jail acquired the property at the corner of Green and Borax and built the facility that the probation and parole office now occupies, it was a kind of a win-win. We were able to use inmates to help us build the building, and in the process, they were able to hone carpentry and construction skills that eventually, theoretically, they could use when they go back out in the community. We provided an office for probation and parole, and they signed an 8-year lease that helps repay the cost of that building, provided them new space, and turned out to be positive all the way around. This is a chance to do basically the exact same thing, utilizing some property you already own right to the east of your current line of training buildings and commissary buildings, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere right in there.
It would be off the current training building. It would
Okay.
be an expansion.
Right.
They're looking at expanding that building to approximately 2,460 feet.
And then you would utilize other facilities that you currently have up to move some of that
We would have
current
to
training space.
move the training building, and I've said in the past, we need more room for our commissary, so that will be the next project.
Right. And we can use, if, in that first project with probation and parole, we use commissary funding.
We used a combination of commissary and the jail fund, depending
Right.
on what it was.
Right.
On this one, with the House Bill 556 and our pilot program of male inmates that are required to work and acquire trade skills while they're incarcerated, and then they do their substance abuse program treatment classes in the evening. I'm hoping that we can use more of our commissary profit on this one and look for an instructor that's a retired builder or something like that to oversee the project.
Gotcha, yeah. Which is what we were able to do with that first project.
Correct.
Right. And Mr. McKee's here, obviously, because he's been spearheading the effort to retain a regional driver's license branch here, and this could be a solution. It lets you say what you'd like to say.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to just make a few comments. While this is a state issue, this is obviously very near and dear to my heart since our office has been operating the driver's licenses here in Henderson for quite some time. But this is a very good opportunity for us. I appreciate Jailer Brady sitting down with me back in April after the bill passed, exploring the different options in the city and the county, and this seemed like the best option at the time, so this has been going very well. At this time, there are currently 18 regional offices for driver's licensing across the state. If you think about it, that is the total number of regional offices in the state of Indiana. And the state of Kentucky is planning on having 12 more regional offices, which is a big deal. So I really want to commend the Secretary of Transportation and the General Assembly for putting those funds forward to make sure that we have good coverage, both regionally, geographically, and by population. And I really think that Henderson County is poised and in the right area since we are a main artery of people coming over to the state of Indiana. I think that this is a really good spot, not only for the jail, but for Henderson County as a whole. So I also want to say that I've had some preliminary discussions with the city of Henderson, and should we get named to have a regional office here, they thought very positively that we could get some public transportation down to the regional office for folks that have ID cards and aren't able to get a ride down there. So I really feel like things are coming into line. This isn't 100%, but I think we're moving in a really good direction.
I think the model that we put in place with the probation and parole office project helped us convince the state that we could do it pretty well, and love it when a plan comes together. So knock on wood. Yeah.
If we all work together, it's hopefully everything will work out in the end. It makes sense to
Yeah.
have an ID office down in that area.
Yeah.
Jailer Brady brought up to Beth and me that the ability to have it there and get the inmates to be able to get their ID cards and stuff so they can go to work, I mean, it is a win-win.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So now you're waiting on some final OKs and then perhaps a contract proposal. We hope that it's a similar one to the probation parole. 8 years gives us some security, allows us to budget, and everything's going great with the probation and parole office. I think they're happy tenants, and hopefully they'll be able to renew here when the lease comes up. So keep us posted. Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
We had asked Jailer Brady to once again propose ranges of pay for her team so that we could give her some flexibility in mid-year merit raises and things like that without having to come back every time to fiscal court in order to be a little bit more flexible, and she has done that. In your package, you have the proposed ranges, and we can vote on that, but I'm sure some people might have questions. This is very similar, I think, in the ranges that were proposed last year when Steve suggested that she do this as a way of maintaining some flexibility. I'm glad we're considering this option again. And I'll open it up. I'm sure Jailer Brady take any questions.
What does the final sentence there mean? Any such salary increases request must be approved by the fiscal court before taking effect.
Those are the ones, that refers to the prior sentence, which says that the salary ranges have to be budgeted. So the budget ordinance is going to control everything. There's no way to, increase salaries, even if it's within these ranges, in such a way that it would exhaust her budget. Anything that would do that, she needs to come back to fiscal court and seek an amendment of the budget ordinance. So this doesn't authorize anything beyond the budget. That's the intent of that. I can
May need to be
change that.
tweaked just a little bit, and I would like to make a suggestion that we add to that terminology that any increases will not exceed 1/12 of the monthly, 1/12 of the total budget.
Do you mean any increases or
All
the
the
total, not just increases, but the total payroll?
Right. Salaries.
Right, not the increases, but the
Can't be more than
in place.
1/12
Yeah.
of the total. That way, you can't make it more where you raise it up, and then we've got a better look, the fiscal court does, on what this does to the future. Because if you wait and give people raises in June before the new year, you don't deplete your money, because you've got people that weren't hired in the past, they left, it took a week or month or 2 or 3 to hire people, then you got money in your budget. And this is what I've seen happen in the past, is raises have been given towards the end of the year, which surpass 1/12, which means next year in the budget, and if you're not looking at it, you don't see it, you have to increase the whole budget more than the 2% or 3% or whatever we authorize for that budget increase. So if you have wording where it can't go over 1/12, 1 month's worth of the salaries can't be more than 1/12 of what we budgeted for the whole year, then you don't go over that number.
I understand. I don't have a problem with it because I don't think selected raises here or there wouldn't, I think, even threaten 1/12.
Not right now with what her budget is. I mean, she's done an excellent job.
In any month, yeah.
And if you look at the.
1/12 of the total budget for salaries.
Right.
Right.
Exactly, right.
So,
Yeah.
She is right on target for the Compass Group's report there on salaries. I mean,
And
we're-
budgeted salaries or actual expense?
budgeted salaries are at where they should be right now.
Yeah.
Now, the general fund, we're already where we should be for 2028
Budgeted.
budget, right, for what they, Compass Group put in, and the road department's in the middle between where they should be and where they are. I mean, they're more towards the 2028 salary numbers.
so if we add to the end of that, in no event shall the monthly payroll exceed
1/12.
1/12 of the payroll line item without fiscal court approval.
I think that's good.
Do you understand that, Amy? Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
I got one here. On the officer's range,
Yes.
you've got an officer actually could make more money than a sergeant.
We do. It depends on the position that they're in and how long they've been there. We may have a sergeant on a shift that's worked at the jail 2 years, but we may have an officer that's worked at the jail since 2003.
And not want to go to a
And,
sergeant.
Yeah, might not want to go to a
They're, the position that they're in, it's not a shift supervisor position. They may be over the weapons, maintaining all the weapons and inventory control and things like that. in the other line item, there's a big difference there, $15 to $45. $15 would be starting pay for someone that was hired at the jail, or it could be a deputy, it might be a civilian that is just doing some temporary work, filing or something like that. The $45 an hour could be our SAP administrator that also qualifies as a clinician. So basically you're taking two positions, combining them into one, so that would be a larger rate of pay.
That addresses the other line item at the bottom, that kind of scenario, right?
Yes, sir. I think on Magistrate McCollum's request and the jail budget, since 2017, 2018, we've defeased over $3.8 million in jail bonds. So
Yeah.
jail would be paid for. So that's a good thing right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And that's really helped with personnel costs and things like that.
It's been remarkable to take those debt payments we would have been making to focus them on to cover any raises. It's been a good tool.
Brad, have you discussed our conversation yesterday about getting money back to the jail to cover their losses for the?
Not yet. Not yet. Well, actually, yes, we did mention it yesterday. It's been our plan since the beginning, since we found out about ARPA funds, to make the jail whole for any deficits that were experienced last year due to COVID. It reduced COVID revenues, and you had quite a bit in the last fiscal year. So we're in the midst of planning to do that. We'll be bringing recommendations soon, and that'll be one of our first charges, is to make sure we replenish your budget based on your expenses versus revenue from last year. So be expecting that, and we'll talk some more about it soon.
Try to get that done in August.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Any other questions about these pay ranges? If none, I'll have the clerk read the resolution. You want to say with the addendum that was discussed earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution authorizing the establishment of pay ranges for the detention center employees, whereas KRS 64.530 requires the fiscal court set a reasonable compensation of certain county employees, including detention center employees, and whereas employee turnover and promotions are frequent at the Henderson County Detention Center, which makes setting specific salaries for each employee impractical. Whereas the fiscal court wishes to establish pay ranges for various job classifications at the detention center within which the jailer shall be authorized to pay employees at her discretion within the confines of the annual budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Henderson County Fiscal Court as follows. 1, the pay ranges for the positions at the Henderson County Detention Center shall be as follows. Chief Deputy from $25 to $39 an hour. There's 2 positions. Major from $23 to $33 an hour. That's 2 positions. Captain $21 to $31 an hour. 4 positions. Lieutenant $20 to $28 an hour. 6 positions. Sergeant $19 to $25. 6 positions. Officers from $17 to $30 an hour for 12 positions. Deputies $15 to $25 for 49 positions, and other personnel from $15 to $45, 10 positions. The jailer is hereby authorized to make salary adjustments within these approved ranges, subject to the availability of funds in the jail salary budget approved by the fiscal court. In no event shall the jailer exceed 1/12 of a monthly budgeted. I will get the wording on the salaries.
Right.
Salaries.
I've got, well, I added that to the end of the third
Okay.
paragraph, and I'll read that when you get there.
All right. The Henderson County Treasurer shall reject any requested salary increase that is either outside these approved salary ranges and approved positions, or any other requested salary increase that would exceed budgeted amounts. Any such salary increase request must be approved by the fiscal court before taking effect.
In no event shall the monthly payroll expense exceed 1/12 of the budgeted payroll line item in any given month without fiscal court approval.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other questions?
Amy, do you have a way for them to move? Do you have it written down, like if I hired in today, do you have a way so I could look at it and say, well, if I do this, this, and this, I'm gonna make this much money? We actually got the sheriff's department to come up with a deal with that. And it dangles a carrot, I guess is what.
They get, we're required to have annual evaluations on the staff. It's part of jail standards, and they do those annually. And when they do the pay increases, or we do the pay increases, then it's based on whatever the annual,
Review? What the review?
well, the annual budgeted amount and the figure that we request. Percentage increases in the past. However, if people are certified to be an instructor in TASER, then they know that they're going to
Have an increase?
They'll have an increase. If they are handling PREA, which is a federal requirement, then they get an increase. It's additional duties, a lot in a jail.
Right, but
There's really.
there's nothing written for that?
No, because jails aren't run on a plan, and everyone has to jump in and do what they can to make sure that everyone is taken care of and all their needs are met. Their annual review is, they all come across my desk, and then we'll go through and we'll go over the things that are marked as an issue and what they can do to fix those in the future. And if they have a good review, then that is someone that's considered for a ranking position as they open. A lot of people aren't interested in being a supervisor.
Right.
They're happy being a deputy, doing what's required of them, and going home. So the supervisors, when we're short 3 shift supervisors right now, they see how hard the shift supervisors that are there are working, and they don't want any part of it.
Well, I understand that part. I'd like to see if we could maybe put together a plan. And I know it's putting more on you, but
No, it's not.
it might give them some incentive to stay if they feel like they can work their way to, an officer can go from 17 to 30. So if they're at 17 and you put some stipulations, if you do this, this, and this, we'll move you up to 19. It might give them goals that we're overlooking, because you are busy.
It is.
It's not. It has nothing to do with you not wanting to give it to them. You're just busy and overlook some things sometimes.
It is, and it's all people that want to step up and take over additional duties or
Right.
go through the certification process to be a trained instructor in certain areas. And it's a difficult
So
environment.
you do it, it's just a matter of maybe writing it down, because you you showed us the form where you showed, you put it on the form of what
Yeah,
they did
but
to get the
there's
raise, but.
really no way to make it a, kind of like a,
Let me see if I
Flow
can help
chart.
clear this up for me.
yes.
Let's just say the top pay, you top out in 5, 6, 7 years.
Mhm.
I don't think Amy's saying that here, right, Amy? You could top out in 2 years. But you were saying, Tim, a graduated scale, say, where you top out 5, 6, 7 years, you're at the top of each category, each classification.
Well, I'm just saying, put something down for an incentive, kind of not, if you do this, this, and this, you get a raise.
I'm just trying to follow.
Right, I
I
understand.
didn't know, like, in the second year, you go here, third year, you'd go here, fourth year, you'd go.
And it may not even it may not be based on years of service. It might be based on, you noticed that the floor needed mopped and you mopped the floor. That kind of thing. But it's sometimes we have to have something in writing so we can give them incentive to, and an opportunity to make more money.
Let me ask this. This is pretty simple. If I hire in as a deputy, how long would it take me to maybe get to a captain?
Depends on your drive and how bad you
So
want
it's-
it. It depends on if you're going to learn your policies and procedures, if you're going to be the person that's going to step up.
Do they test out?
Pardon?
Do you test out on,
They do a promotion board. But some people are book smart, but when it comes to the people that are going to be able to take over a situation, there was a situation going on when I walked in this morning. It depends on who can handle that situation and handle it correctly. We push de-escalation. You want someone that's going to think about it and think about the outcome and what's in the best interest of the facility, their coworkers, and the inmate.
Are they trained for that?
Amy, don't your evaluations do basically what they're talking about? That's what your evaluations do, right?
Our evaluations are the evaluations that we've had for, well, Kurt, how long have we had the same evaluation process?
Since you came in the jail, probably.
I mean, it's forever. I've got copies of some from some other jails. However, a lot of them are based on ours. So that was one thing that I did talk to Keiko about, is putting something together for jails as far as evaluations on the staff and things like that.
So when you do the evaluations, do you, during the evaluation, do you offer them or tell them ways to make more money or get increases, or they just get increases? I guess that's what I'm asking. How do they get more money? How do they not stay at $17 an hour?
Can I input?
Go ahead, Kurt.
Okay. The jail's a different environment.
I'm sure.
Very different. Most positions are availability. You have officers, a lot of personnel that are officers, transport officers and stuff, are going to be different than your property officer. They're still officers, but they're doing totally two different jobs. So it's really not a set way of writing, saying if you do this, you can be promoted to an officer, because there's just too many variants in there. Community service personnel, if they need a person out there, that person would go from a deputy to an officer. So there's too many variants to really put it into a written word like that. It's really, most of the promotions, most of them planned out there. You know, you lose a shift supervisor, you've got to have a sergeant. You usually have a board with a running list of promotable people. So the next person on the list, you may be an officer, maybe a deputy today, but you've taken that board. We lose a supervisor, lose a sergeant, bang, that person's now a sergeant. Same thing with a lieutenant. You lose your shift supervisor, that's a lieutenant. You've got the running list, and so there's no set time frame on a lot of this.
And a lot of our supervisor vacancies that we have, this is the longest we've ever had shift supervisor vacancies, and it's because we have so many new hires on the shifts. We're not just going to promote someone and go, congratulations, you're a sergeant, because you read the policy manual and you know it. It's someone that is confident in what they're doing. They know that exactly how to handle a situation. They know how to make the right call, when to make the right call, and they're not afraid to make the right call, even though it's probably going to tick someone off. And we're not going to promote someone just to have a shift supervisor. So right now, everyone's providing assistance to the shift. All of people that are at desk, booking supervisor, everyone's been helping on that. And as far as you can do this, this, and this for a pay increase, correct me if I'm wrong, don't think I can do that. It had to be additional duties of some type, or they had to actually be promoted. There had to be a reason above and beyond what your
Right.
normal expectations are for people that are working on a daily basis.
I'm not looking for promotion, like moving from an officer to a sergeant.
Right.
I'm talking about moving from $17 an hour to $18 an hour.
Yeah, but I can't pay someone more just because they're doing what they have to do. We have a whole stack of jail standards on this is what's
What?
expected of you
That's
every
what I
day,
want to know.
and we can't pay someone for doing what is required of us. Now, if it's someone that's going to step up and they're going to be a certified instructor, they are going to handle rewriting our work release policy, or something like that. Working with county attorney's office on investigations and warrants,
And they don't have to be a sergeant, or they don't have to, they can just be a deputy and do that.
they can if it's someone that's been around that knows the process. So
Okay.
a lot of people, if we feel it's someone that's going to stick around and they've got the drive, then more power to them. We're going to work with them,
All right.
and it helps. The more people with the knowledge and the drive to get the job done, it's better for all of us.
Okay, we have a
Thank you.
motion and a second.
I call for the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. One last item,
Thanks.
a service
you, Amy.
agreement. I guess Amy doesn't have to stay up here for this one if she doesn't want to, but we do have a service agreement for their ovens in the kitchens with Hobart, is that right?
Yes, actually, the county attorney had a couple of adjustments to the contract, and we've sent it back to Hobart, and we're waiting for a reply.
Is that who does it now?
Yes.
Yes, and my suggestion was that I had made some changes to the agreement. Part of the agreement was that we would waive a jury trial and that we would agree that any disagreement would be settled using Ohio law, things like that. We marked a couple of those things out, so my suggestion is that we go ahead and approve that agreement subject to those handwritten amendments that were made, and go from there. That way, if they agree to that, which, like I said, most of them were those type of things, and that way we can go ahead and enter into that agreement. I would say, assuming they do accept those, Jalen Brady, when you do sign that, please make sure to initial by where those handwritten things are and make sure that they sign off on them as well.
So you're comfortable reading the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Resolution authorizing Henderson County Jailer to execute agreement with Hobart Services for Hobart to service the jail's Vulcan ovens. Whereas the Henderson County Jailer has a need for Vulcan ovens at the Henderson County Detention Center to be regularly serviced and maintained, and whereas after research and meeting with Hobart Service, the jailer is identified and hereby recommends the services of Hobart Service for the provision of regular service and maintenance of Vulcan ovens at the detention center. And whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court approves the recommendation of the Henderson County Jailer that the attached agreement be approved. Now therefore be it resolved that the Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby authorizes Jailer Amy Brady to bind the county to the terms of the attached agreement with Hobart Services for regular service and maintenance of Vulcan ovens at the detention center, and directs her to execute said agreement on behalf of the county along with any and all other necessary and appropriate documents required to effectuate the intent thereof.
Move to accept.
Subject to.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. It's the longest tenure at the podium we've had in a while. A lot of stuff going on. You have in your packets the monthly sheriff's report. Before we bring David up, Get a motion to approve the monthly sheriff's report.
You want to approve the report now?
Yeah.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes, and Sheriff Crafton's with us now, and at the request of Fiscal Court, the suggestion of Fiscal Court, you developed a kind of a pay scale for your office. I'd like you to go ahead and go over it with us.
Okay. Everybody has a copy of it, I assume. And I was going to go over how we arrived at it, and there was a lot of suggestions that we had when we were doing the study on how we were going to increase the pay for the deputies to be more competitive with other agencies. And we wanted to bring the lower end of the scale up, have higher starting pay, and I think there were different suggestions about not having pay increases based on percentage raises, but on fixed amounts and so forth. So we've incorporated a lot of that into this, and I'll go through it right fast if I figure out how to work this. Okay, the original proposed pay increase was $161,000. And then we looked at reimbursing the officers for dry cleaning, cleaning cars, and so forth. We arrived at a figure of that being about worth $15,000, bringing the pay increase to $146,000. Retirement cost just over $41,000, leaving the pay increase for the sworn to be $104,000 to $228,000. So we're going to create a pay scale, and what we wanted to do in doing that was raise starting pay and distribute the pay fairly based on the years that they're employed, longevity. Give credit for police officers' professional standards certification from previous employment if they came from another agency and they were already certified. Give them credit for that in determining what their pay would be. Same thing for retirees that are being reemployed, because there's advantages to bringing them in. We'll go over in a minute. We want to be as competitive as possible with other agencies, particularly Henderson Police Department, because they're right here in this county with us. And we want to change the rank structure and related pay increases that go along with that. So we raised the starting pay from $18.75 an hour to $20 an hour. And in comparison with HPD, theirs starts at $19.53 an hour. So that's the comparison there. We wanted to distribute it based on their years of service as a sworn officer. They have larger increases at the beginning of the scale so we can attract new employees that way. And the formula we used to do that was this: starting pay plus years of service times, that's the formula. And I have an example here of a deputy with 4.42 years of service. They take the starting pay of $20 plus his years of service times that formula, and it comes to $229 plus the $20, $22.29. And it increases pay based on the number of years at a declining rate, and I'll show you that in a second. Here's the pay scale. I think y'all's goes down to 38 years. Here it is to 30 years. And the pay, you have an hourly rate there in the center, and then the annual rate there on the right-hand side. And that's the increase that you have each year. The first year is 54 cents, then 53, 51. It declines as you go through the number of years. That way we're able to put more money at the beginning of the scale. Comparing it to Henderson Police Department, and they have 3 shifts. First shift is their regular pay. Third shift, they have pay differential, 75 cents an hour more for third shift and $1.25 more an hour for second shift. We don't have that, so our comparison is with each of the 3 shifts. And our HPD pay is on the right-hand side there. We're back over here in the center. And this last column here is the difference between the two. We're competitive with them from years 1 through 18. We're actually ahead of them, and we're in the black. Down there in the red below that is where they pull ahead of us on the first shift. Now, on their third shift comparison, their third shift is over here on the right-hand side, and that last column shows the difference there. We're not as competitive there, but we are from years 3 through 9. We're slightly ahead. And then on second shift, it's the last column there, we can't really compete with that. That's too big a difference. Okay, we wanted to give credit for police officers' professional standards certification, like I said. And we basically, that is because we give credit for that because when they transfer over to here, with a 2 or 3 weeks training, they can go to work. They don't have to go back through Richmond and go through basic training again. Maximum credit we give is 5 years. So if they have 3 years service from another agency, they'll get credit for that. If they have 7 years, they still get a maximum of 5 years credit for the time they have with them. That puts them starting out with us at $22.57 an hour. HPD gives credit for 10 years of service. They start at $23.44 an hour on their first shift. Retirees, same, those are the advantages. You don't have to pay into the retirement system either. You don't have to provide health insurance. They already have that through the retirement system. We give credit for 10 years of service, they start at $24.78 an hour with us. And HPD gives credit for 20 years of service. They start out there at $27.94 an hour. We're not as competitive, but we're a lot closer than we were. Then we changed the rank structure as follows in the pay increases. This is what we had before, and still kind of had, but we had sergeant, lieutenant, captain, then colonel. You got a 10% pay raise for each rank that you moved up to. And our new rank structure takes out the rank of captain. We think we can do without that, have a lieutenant in charge of each division, and that way you don't have that many jumps up. And the pay increases went from 10% to 8% for sergeant, 7% for lieutenant, and 6% for colonel. And that's it.
Any questions? I know this is something you thought we'd like to see.
No, I just want to thank you, David. I think when we talked back last December, I think with Magistrate Berry and myself and you and Sheriff Brady, that's kind of what we had in mind.
Yeah, right.
I think you followed through with it.
I tried to incorporate everything, all the suggestions you all had.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And this is a policy you basically instituted now. You're following the policy.
We started July 1st when we did the pay increases. It was based on this.
Deal. Any other questions of David?
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. One last item with the Sheriff's Office, the 2020 tax settlement, which is in your packet, requires us to approve. Any questions about that? Entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Bernice Abner, the county clerk's report, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today, I have the monthly and the calendar year second quarter totals and the 2020-2021 fiscal year total of payments submitted to the county. For June, excess fees, $205,788.20, with a total submitted to the county of $278,601.85. Quarterly, it's for excess fees, $444,881.23, with a total submitted to county of $613,968.54. Comparing the same quarter from 2020 to this year shows an increase of about $192,400 in excess fees. And also in the 2020-2021 fiscal year that just ended, we submitted $1,709,687.70 in excess fees to the county. And this is an increase of $586,700 over what we submitted in the prior fiscal year. I think a lot of that is due to a recording fee increase that happened in January of 2020. So we just closed out the first fiscal year where we had a full year of those increased recording fees. So.
Any other questions of Renisa?
Great job.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I entertain a motion to accept both the monthly and quarterly reports.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Am I wrong in saying this is the first time you've addressed us in person?
No. No,
Last
I've been
meeting?
here.
Were you here last meeting?
No, not, Carrie, I think, was here last meeting, but yeah, I've been here.
Okay.
So.
Just trying to keep track of all the new stuff that's happened, you know, as we emerge, hopefully, and stay out of the woods. Thank you, Renisa. Mr. Gold, your report.
All right, Judge, I've got several things, and you all may notice that we've changed the format of the report that we're giving you a little bit, break it down a little bit better. Essentially, this has 3 sections, and at budget time, we let you all know, that a certain percentage of the money that we have, we're able to seek, or that you all spend, we're able to seek 2/3 reimbursement from the federal government for that. And that is that's section 1. So we're getting 2/3 of the money that you all are budgeting for us for those specific things back from the federal government. And today, giving checks $8,529.78, $31,107.07, $16.62, $66.52, $1,515.54, and $1,186.02. So that's what we received from the feds. We were also able to seek some additional reimbursement, 100% reimbursement from the state for some salaries and benefits. That's $5,252.06 for the salaries, FICA, and retirement. The dental and life insurance, $485.34, and $12.60. Health insurance, $6,341. And then miscellaneous reimbursement from our office, for AFLAC, $124.94, and interest in the amount of $7.43, bringing today's total to $54,644.92.
A motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Steve? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good luck chasing down all that money you can get.
Well, hey, anytime we can get anything reimbursed, we're going out for it.
And you have a new employee coming on board.
Yes. We've sadly had a departure from Lawson Lambert, who a lot of you all have worked with on some different county projects. His wife received a big promotion with iHeartMedia and has to move down to the Nashville area. So we're losing Lawson, but we are gaining Misty Stone. Misty Stone has been practicing law for about 5 years. She's a graduate of UK Law School with, I think she was magna cum laude there. And we're very lucky to have her. She's originally from Henderson and I believe grew up in Webster County. So she is ready to hit the ground running, and we have already hired her on the state side of our office and wish to have the supplement that we had for Lawson directed to her through this fiscal court resolution.
Any other questions? I'll have the clerk read the resolution.
A resolution regarding personnel actions in the Henderson County Attorney's Office. Whereas the Henderson County Attorney's Office has experienced the resignation of a part-time assistant county attorney due to relocation. whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court deems it in the best interest of Henderson County to maintain adequate staffing levels in the Henderson County Attorney's Office, and whereas pursuant to KRS 67.7107, the approval of the fiscal court is necessarily appointed for the appointment of county employees, and whereas pursuant to KRS 64.530, the fiscal court must fix the reasonable compensation of every county officer and employee except those named in KRS 64.535. Now therefore be it resolved by the fiscal court, County of Henderson, Kentucky, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 67.7107 and KRS 64.530, the county judge executive and the Henderson Fiscal Court hereby approves the county attorney's appointment of Misty M. Stone as part-time county assistant county attorney, and hereby fixes her reasonable compensation at the sum of $19,456.63 per year, effective August 1st, 2021. Said position is a part-time position without health or retirement benefits.
I will also tell you, I know everybody was riveted by the presentation that Lawson and I did on Kentucky ditch law at one of the fiscal court meetings. Misty has been put on notice that she has to become a ditch law expert. So.
Steve, she's going to be part-time with us and part-time with the state, basically a full-time employee for your office. So.
Yes, she will receive her retirement, her health insurance through the state.
Okay. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Steve? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And big welcome to Misty. That'll have Treasurer Ryder come up and we'll do some, go over transfers and claims.
You have one appropriation transfer. It is as presented, and this is redistributing appropriations within the existing budget. I do have two cash transfers which are budgeted from the general fund to the LGEA fund in the amount of $59,900, from the general fund to the economic development fund in the amount of $494,300. And these are budgeted transfers for the new fiscal year.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the transfers. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And now the claims.
I have no additional claims. Your bank balances that you received are after paying claims today, and your day-to-day appropriation lines should be at approximately 8%. Some of these you will notice are a lot more than that, and that is due to the one-time annual premiums that are paid at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Any questions about claims?
I had a couple, I think I'd like to ask. On the first page, A to Z Computers, Inc., what was that for, do you know?
That is an annual subscription that is paid to A to Z Computer for remote access.
Okay.
It's software that handles our updates on all our computers, remote access.
Okay. And then on the page 2, just wanted to point out, I guess, the difference in the utilities for the courthouse and the judicial center, $2,577. It is I hope we can do something before we have to take over where we're not getting reimbursed for that.
Well, if you remember last meeting, we have, asking ESG to review all this and give us some recommendations, and the utilities at the Judicial Center are one of the primary targets.
Right.
We're also entertaining some, I've been in discussions with solar farm firm, not a solar farm firm, but a solar firm that specializes in using solar on buildings to help drive down electrical costs. Right now, HMP&L, which is the provider over there, has a discount program for facilities that provide part of their power from solar, so we're looking into what that could look like cost-wise. This firm does a lease program, so you don't have to buy the equipment up front. You can lease it over 10 years, which I like. It fixed the cost. So we're examining that. Right now, we're consulting with AOC to make sure they're comfortable with it because they have to approve it. There's some question now about the engineering on the roof. Can the roof handle the weight of the current solar panels. They're actually pretty light, but we're in the process of seeing if they'll even talk to us about it, and if they will, we'll bring more information back.
Let's hope they do. We talked about the software, and you evidently can't put it in the economic mode because it doesn't cool down enough fast enough. So that, to me, says the software's got a flaw in it, that if you can't, cut it down back at night and then have it kick in soon enough to get the place cool back down for business or over the weekends, it's something's wrong, and those numbers are pretty high. And over the year, it cost us a lot of money. On page 1 of 6 on the road department, the Boyd County paid $2,000 to Boyd County for something. Boyd Company, I'm sorry.
Boyd.
I was thinking it was county. I beg your
It's a
pardon.
Boyd Company. It's
Okay.
their
Okay.
parts and supplies company.
I misread it myself, and I apologize. Okay, on Donald Peters at the road, at the parks, what was that for, Bill?
If you'll remember the last meeting, the judge brought up a couple of larger encumbrances that it was a year-end
Yeah, I remember.
encumbrance,
Yeah,
and we
I
had to
did.
encumber it at
I-
year-end but pay it in
Yes,
this
yes,
fiscal
yes,
year.
I remember there were some problems with the, and on the workman's comp on page 1 of 2, $73,000, and I'm not, as DeCaco, is there anything we can do to cut that back, or any education, or I don't know if there's anything that's happened to us in the past, because a lot of it's on history.
Well, we've actually done really well with workers' comp over the last several years. It's actually lowered, or we've gotten back reimbursements based on our performance. And, we've started the safety committee now, which is all geared towards not only protecting our people, but helping keep our workers' comp down. So that's
And
underway.
I just completed the audit for the fiscal year that just ended. I don't have the results back, but it is trending to probably be a refund of sorts.
Excellent, okay.
Any other questions on claims?
Just a comment, I think Charlie I have this telepathy thing, because I asked Brenda about some of the similar ones yesterday.
I make a motion to approve. I unfortunately was late getting to that meeting, so I didn't hear it. I apologize for that.
So I heard a motion to approve claims.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
In old business there, consent agenda discussion, and Charlie and I talked about it yesterday. I wonder about the necessity for a consent agenda, because one of the primary purposes, at least as Magistrate McCollum suggested it, was that we are able to show that we are at least acknowledging the forwarding of Planning Commission recommendations to the fiscal court without taking actual votes on it, because as we've discussed many times, the taking of a vote may put us in jeopardy of being pointed to as a intersection in the process that allows it to be reopened again with questioning and further comments. And it's not our intent, unless we have a specific problem with the recommendation. And as you know, the law states that by our inaction on any recommendation, it is then approved. And so I know part of the consent agenda discussion was to try to figure out a way to do that without putting us in a tough spot. And since that discussion, we've had a couple of these come up, and the way we handled it before was just during good of the county to mention that you each have received, as an example, you each have received Planning Commission recommendation. Without further discussion, we will move on to the next item. So it gets in the minutes that we have reviewed it, and you each get that information in both your mailboxes now and via email. And to me, that kind of handles the issue by putting it in a consent agenda. In my mind, by putting it in a consent agenda that we vote on, we are actually voting on that recommendation. And I asked Steve for his opinion. He said it was 6-1, half dozen the other.
Just for clarity's sake, the mere act of voting on one of those planning decisions does not open it up to a full hearing. What would is if it came off the consent agenda, if a magistrate wanted it to come off the consent agenda and discuss it, that's where you would have to have a full hearing if you were doing anything other than sticking to the hearing that happened and the transcript of the hearing that happened at the planning commission level. So there's not a problem if those sort of things do end up on a consent agenda. It's if and when you want one to come off, if that makes any sense. The mere act of voting for it doesn't create any sort of legal issue. It's the discussion of it creates the legal issue. Because we are supposed to be, to keep ourselves strictly to the hearing that was held at the Planning Commission, unless you want to have your own hearing, which you have that right, but that's a full-blown, trial type hearing. So that's the danger that comes up there is if you, the voting on a consent agenda does not in and of itself create a problem. It's the taking it off the consent agenda and talking about it that would.
So there would not be anything wrong with just putting it on our agenda as long as we didn't discuss it. We just voted on it.
Right, which is kind of what we've been doing.
Well,
up
but
to
you're
now.
doing it in the good of the county, and I'm afraid it's going to get lost in the shuffle, because we've lost stuff because it wasn't on the agenda. Just put it on the agenda then, and we're all educated now. We know we don't discuss it. If you got a question about it, you want to take it up, if you want to discuss it, I guess you have that right. But if you do that, then we may subject us to having a hearing. It's going to cost us money. It's going to cost a lot of time. You got to go through the same process that the planning and zoning did, which we don't want to do, I don't think, unless there's some abnormality of it. But
So I think just the mere act, as you just said, just putting it on the agenda and blowing right through it unless somebody has an objection.
that would suit me fine. If we can just put it on the agenda and everybody knows you don't discuss it, you can't say, well, I know them, they're good friends of mine, and you just can't do it. And if we can do that, that solves my problem.
So if that's fine with everybody, we'll just handle it that way.
Works for me.
Works for me
too.
We'll go to good of the county. We are going to go into executive session after this. And we do not anticipate a vote coming out of that executive session. Beth? We will not take a vote coming out of that executive session. But anybody have anything for good of the county? Yes, sir.
Judge, I'd like to notify at the court that we will be tentatively starting blacktopping the week of the 6th of August. We've been working on replacing culverts and edging the road edges in all 3 districts, and just want to make everybody aware of that we should potentially be starting in 2 weeks from now.
Good deal. Bill also informed me, you guys got mowers fixed. Hopefully they'll be out mowing.
Yeah, we got 3 out of 4 going now.
Yeah, good deal. For anybody who might ask, we've had trouble keeping up with mowing because we have a hard time getting parts to fix our mowers. The supply chain issue is nationwide, and I don't think there's a sector that hasn't been affected by it. So I'm getting some calls on mowing, and that's all we can say is we're trying hard. Anybody else for good of the county?
I have a question for Bill.
Sure.
Did you get a look at subbing the mowing out? Have you looked at that yet?
We have, I've been in contact with the Davis County engineer. I have gotten a copy of their agreements of what they sent out for bid packages. They basically divide their county up into, I believe it's 6 or 7 areas, and they bid it out by area. I'm going through that right now. I want to have he's been on vacation last week. I want to go over and speak with him personally on how it's going. I don't have their costs. I just have the blank applications for it. So I want to see how it's going as far as the number-wise and how pleased they are with the situation. So, but I am diligently working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. You want to follow that up, Magistrate Southern, with anything good of the county?
We talked earlier this year when, well, actually it was last year, I guess, but with the government money we're having, maybe putting some more money towards blacktop. I was wondering if we're gonna start August the 6th, I was wondering if we have a number that we could, to where we could do that, so we could maybe start working on getting more roads done.
We're gonna, the Finance Committee's gonna come back with a proposal for that, hopefully by next meeting, initial outlays, and we'll discuss that then, but we are gonna bring a number, yeah.
Okay. It's hot outside. Be careful, everybody. That's my, drank a lot of water, and everything's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Astrid Moran?
I'll say the same. Since you're throwing in things, I'll throw in the things about with the ARPA money, with the water, you know, that we have a concern in several homes in our area that don't have county water. So we're working on that, and I just wanted people to know where we are. And as far as I know, all's well in the 2nd District.
Thank you. Master Putman?
Thank you, Judge. I guess the only thing I'd have to say is I encourage people to maybe get the vaccine if you hadn't, the COVID vaccine, because everybody's following it. You see it in the news every day. Numbers are growing. So other than that, all's good and forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Master McCollum?
Yesterday in finance meeting, Brad and I talked about the liens for mowing and tearing down property and whatnot, and Randy had sent me the list of property, and we've talked about the different problems with that, cost of filing the lawsuit, cost of service and whatnot, but on the particular ones that Randy gave us, 2 of them were owned by corporations, which you only have to serve an agent for service process. One of them is a husband and wife for $17,000. We just would have had to serve them, and the other one was an estate, and I haven't done any research on that. Brad asked me to get with Steve on that to see about a solution, and I'm happy to do that. But I'm not sure if we don't need more than just Steve and I to solve that problem. I think at some point you're going to probably have to have some kind of standing committee or something, or somebody for Steve to review and make a decision. Is this worth filing suit on? You got thoughts on that?
Yes, I think if there's going to be a determination as to who should and shouldn't have foreclosures filed against them, I think that's a policy decision that the fiscal court needs to play a part in.
And then my other thought is we probably need somebody from Brad's office, Kurt, because there's got to be an administrator. Now, I'm not an administrator. Once the court's over, I have no power. But somebody's got to watch these things and make sure the statute of limitations doesn't run. We've lost $30,000 in the last month, or May. It was in 2 months. In May, all those ran out, and so we've lost that $30,000 because nobody was watching it. So we've got to come up with a solution on who's going to watch it and make sure that the statutes of limitations don't run out. The other thing I see is we've been paying a law firm, and we've got a county attorney's office. Why haven't we been supplementing them or doing something rather than paying a law firm? I mean, who gave Randy the authority to hire a law firm? I guess is my question, to do that work. I mean, I don't think it ever came up to fiscal court about us hiring a law firm, and I would think that would.
I think historically the way that worked for several years, and prior to my becoming county attorney, I believe there was an assistant county attorney that had a private practice that they paid separately to do that. And so when that assistant county attorney left the county attorney's office, that board met to discuss whether they would continue using that attorney or whether or not they would hire someone else. They did end up hiring a different assistant county attorney at that point.
What board?
It's either Board of Zoning Adjustment or Board of Housing Appeals. I got them confused.
Okay.
But
we pay for it. The fiscal court?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
they build fiscal court. And I believe that's the way it was set up when Mr. Wade was representing that board, that he would, even though he was an assistant county attorney at the time, he would bill them directly from his private practice. And then when after I became county attorney, he ended up leaving the county attorney's office, and then they hired, I believe it was Assistant County Attorney Joe Brady at the time. And so for a long time, there was a unity in that it was an assistant county attorney, but it was an assistant county attorney that had a private practice and was billing the county from their private practice, not as county attorney work. So then I believe it went to Brian Owsley, who was an assistant county attorney at the time. And then when he left the county attorney's office, that board stayed with him and kept using him because they had a setup. He knew their work, you know. And then I believe, and I may be missing somebody here or there, but I think at that point, then when Mr. Owsley was no longer able to do their work, they went to, I believe it was Don Thompson, but I think they may have gone to another firm or two in between there, and then hired Mr. Thompson to do that. Then Mr. Thompson became an assistant county attorney, and then left the office. And he's been continuing to do their work all the way through.
Okay.
So, like I said, there has been a time period where there have been assistant county attorneys that have private practices that have been doing that, but billing the county. Currently, we don't have any assistant county attorneys that have private practices. We have one, and he does title opinions. That's all he does. So we could certainly, do that and cover that work for them.
Who do you think we need to have to get together to come to a solution?
I think it would definitely Mr. Tassa, representative from fiscal court or the judge's office, and I think it would probably be worthwhile to have Mr. Thompson at that meeting as well, just to give an idea of where things stand legally with that entity and how things are, basically how much time it takes, what's going on.
And you also gave us information on the board setting up a
Yes, a codes enforcement board like the city has. That is something that we have proposed as part of the ordinance review, and based on the good experience that the city has had with that, our office is strongly advising that we go to that. That's somewhat for different reasons than that particular board, but it is part and parcel of that. But it also helps avoid some of the judicial things that go through as far as trying to prosecute some of those violations criminally. Also, I believe the liens on codes enforcement board liens have a much longer statute of limitations. And I know I sent you an email on it.
10 years.
10 years, okay. I couldn't remember if it was 10 or 11. So those liens stay in place much longer. That's why, generally I'm a big fan of what I've seen of the way those codes enforcement boards work.
Do you mind setting up a meeting?
Absolutely.
And with everybody we need, and let's see if we can come to some resolution on it. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
If we had a board put together, that would take some of the work off of Randy too, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily.
Return.
He might say it may make more work for him, but it might possibly make it more efficient. I don't know. That's something we'd have to talk to Randy about.
Well, I mean, I really like what the city's done. We don't have that ability to do that mass foreclosures. It's really, I wish the legislature would let us do that. But getting some of these properties back on the tax rolls where they're not just, people aren't, you got aired property and everything else that's just a mess. And I just think it benefits the community. It lets somebody else build a home there, maybe Habitat or whoever, and we can do something. But thank you, Steve. Thank you.
And as Steve mentioned, the proposal of this board is going to be part of our ongoing ordinance review. And if you've read through the suggested changes to ordinances, it's all in there. The details are in there.
This is not exactly, but we talked about getting a list of all our assets, roads, right-of-ways, ditch right-of-ways and things like that. And I was looking at that, but I don't think I can do that. I could, but I just don't have the time or the ability to do it. We need to, I think, see about getting that hired out for somebody to, because it's going to take a lot of work, but if we do it over a period of time, I know Tim had a project on, what was the creek? Pond Creek, and everybody said, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. And Tim found somebody that had knew for the past that they'd gotten easements all along that creek, but nobody knew about it. Or, there was something in the past, maybe, 40 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And if we had those and got that all on the GIS, I think that would be beneficial. And I was starting to do that, and I would be glad to help somebody, Steve, if they have somebody that can do that.
You're right, it would be a colossal project.
But you just take it one bite at a time.
Exactly.
And
That's how you
chew
eat
it
the
up.
elephant.
And if we can just not let that fall off either. Thank you.
Well, I have a request then. Would you create some sort of outline of how that would look so that we can then price it in some fashion? Because I'm not an expert enough to know what the work entails. So if you can tell me, kind of what it would require, then we can kind of go out and see who might, be willing to do it and what price they would charge. And if it would be a lawyer that would have to do that, or some sort of...
I would think probably so. Let me see, I think I've got that here. That's a copy of the grantor book, or grantee book, for Henderson County. And each one of these is a deed into the county. And this just goes, I've got probably 15 or 20 pages, and this just goes to 1978. There's another set of books from 78 till, I don't know, what, 80 maybe, or 80 something, and then another set of books, the indexes of those. And what you'd have to do is...
Well, instead of talking about one, I don't want to, we got a lot to work to do here.
understand, but-
If you
but-
could send me an email, just kind of with the bullet points, this is what should happen, and this is the information we'll end up with when the process is over, and then we can work it out who we
You
need
have to take every deed and follow it out and see if the county, if they acquired something, if it's some real estate, they may have sold it. So you got to find out if they sold it. If it's an easement, we don't sell those. So then you just have to try to locate it where it is, which is sometimes difficult. But there's some old maps and reference points and things that you go to. Denny Branson has a ton of stuff. I know that's some of the stuff that we copied or got microfilmed of his office and whatnot. And then we need to put it on the film. And there's really not any way I could tell you what it's going to cost. I mean, it's just something.
Well, can you, but the process you just described, can you send it to me in writing?
Okay.
And then we can kind of wrap our heads around who we'd have to hire and what they might charge.
Right,
So,
right.
I appreciate that. Master Barry. Go to the
Got
county.
what I had now. Thanks, Charlie. No, I'm kidding. No, Charlie, good information there. Thanks a lot. Pretty well, thank Bill for getting the mowing. My biggest, I'll go over two complaints I've been getting a lot, and I don't know what we do about it, but one was mowers, was mowing in the county, and I looked at some of that, and it was bad. And I know the mowers broke down. We got them fixed. That's great. But thanks, Fred, for you being here for Kenny, too, standing in. I was going to thank you for that. And the trash, I've made calls. I had a lady call and say, when you cross the bridge, you go to Evansville, look at the trash. And I did. And it looks like a landfill up there. It's terrible. My feeling is when somebody new comes through Henderson or whatever, that's the first thing they see. It is terrible. I talked to Jailer Brady, and she don't have the people to do it. They done such a great job when she had those 3 crews. That was priceless, I'm telling you. And I'm big on keeping stuff clean, as everybody probably knows. But I went up there and looked at that bridge. It is absolutely terrible going up through. It's just what you see. I called Nancy Watkins, who in turn called the state. They told her they would call George at the state, and I think that's as far as it got.
No money.
Yeah, they
That's the
just not
response.
picking.
No money.
Just not doing it. And I don't know if there's any help. If anybody has any ideas,
Raise the
please
gas
let us
tax
know.
10 cents. That was
Well,
an idea.
yeah,
that
obviously
would-
we can't seem to get that done. Yeah. But the trash has really got atrocious, and that's just something that
Well, if you look at Russell County, if you go down there by the lake, the Cumberland, they don't have any trash on the road. You drop a piece of trash, the sheriff issues it, they charge you, the county attorney pops the fine. That money used to go to the county and to the sheriff's office for doing that. I think the law just got changed and amended where it goes to Watkins, the
Solid waste.
people to help do this, so then you would have money. So we got to start doing something. There is obviously a relationship with trash and crime. I mean, it's been studies and studies and studies. There's a real relationship. If you have a messy place, people will do more more stuff, bad things. If you got a clean place, people will go somewhere else to do their thing. So I think we need some enforcement on our criminal littering.
And it's hard, that you're right, and the sheriff can very well say it's hard. And I look, when you're driving a marked car that stands out like a sore thumb, people don't throw out the trash. They throw it out when nobody's around. I mean, actually, that is a problem.
It is.
Some of the dumps can be investigated, and I think they do that. But
and we need to prosecute them and let people know, and not just let them pick it up. It needs to go to court.
About putting cameras out.
Right.
Put cameras out, and the cars and the police in the cars, if they still got cameras, and I assume they do, push that button, record it, and then let's charge them. Let's. That's my.
And I wish everybody in the county would come to court so I could ask them to quit throwing out their trash. How bad it looks.
Well, most of us have to pick up our trash before we can mow our grass, and it just is irritating. Yeah, I know exactly where you.
Every time.
And you got it. You give a. I bet you got a big bag full.
It's every time, and it just looks so bad to people coming through the county. So I won't preach about that anymore. But if anybody has any ideas on trash, I'd get out and pick it up myself, but I can't cover the whole county. So please quit throwing it out.
Clean up Carton if we just ban foam cup sales.
You can find everything on Highway 41, trash-wise.
It takes from the pantry to my mother's house is how long it takes to drink a 16-ounce Coke, because that's where all the cups are.
Butch?
Master Moran and I sat on City County Co-op, and this was a big discussion, if you remember, Judge, at the last meeting, and Mr. Gold was there as well. Yeah, and on down 41, when you cross the bridge, right there across KFC and all that, grass is 3 foot high, and it just... And I got to listen to my wife, my lovely wife, every time we come across, because she starts right there at the bridge. But we're looking into get some sort of some organizations maybe or something to kind of like adopt a spot or help pick up and that's an ongoing discussion with the City County Co-op.
Right.
The area in between the approaches to the bridges is a tough nut to crack because it's controlled by state, and they're very reticent to allow just any group access down there. They were contracting with our jail to help do that, and that was a great arrangement, but they don't have the money to do that now. And again, they're very cautious about who can get down in there, because if they get a little too aggressive, fall on the roadway 41, get hit by a car, it's their fault. And some of that stuff is right by the guardrail.
Right.
So it's very frustrating. I'm with you.
Okay. Other than that, I'm done. It's good in the First District.
Mr. Gold?
I will say prosecution of littering is not a problem. That is something that we do. My predecessor set a pretty strong policy about prosecution of litter, and we have continued that policy. But that is something that, now, I will say, we just don't see many littering charges come through.
I think you've had 18 in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's
and most of those are associated with drugs, where they're throwing the drug thing away, whatever. So it's
we just don't see many of those. And I do want to kind of clean up something for anybody that may be going back watching this later or watching it on Facebook. I believe during the animal control report, one of the magistrates made a joke about there was no law against being an idiot, and that's something that we often talk about. There could be criminal idiocy, first, second, and third degree, but there are definitely laws against cruelty to animals, and that is something that we take very seriously here in Henderson, and it gets prosecuted with vigor. So lest anybody think that that is anything that is acceptable in Henderson. It is absolutely not. Do want to congratulate Jayla Brady on what she's done to try to get that regional Department of Transportation Center here. That is a game changer. That is huge. And, I know Mr. McKee, brought up the idea to you a long time ago, but, you took it from there and really did the heavy lifting on that. And that is definitely to be congratulated. And I think that the community will see a lot of great benefits from your hard work on that. So thank you for that. And just wanted to mention, I know there had been talk about the consent agenda in the planning and zoning context. If the fiscal court were ever to go to that, I think the real benefit of that is things like personnel matters, some of the routine resolutions and things like that. So I just don't want anybody to think that the idea of a consent agenda is solely for something like the planning and zoning stuff. I think there might be some other benefits to that as well, and if anybody wanted to discuss those in more detail, I'd be glad to at some other time. Other than that, things are great in the county attorney's office, and court is back open. We had our first live traffic court session yesterday, and it did not go till midnight. It only went till just shy of 6, and that was great. The Judicial Center has, given that Henderson is now back in the COVID red zone, the Judicial Center has now, per order of Judge Wilson, gone to masked for everyone, regardless of vaccine status. So just wanted to put that information out there.
Thank you, Steve. A couple things, and Mr. Benke, if you could relay this to Kenny, I think he's still out of town, perhaps on vacation. There was in your packet a form about a possible, well, we've discussed a possible grant request, grant opportunity. We're going to table that for a little while. I need to talk to him a little bit more about that, so if you relay that information to him. Butch brought it up. Vaccines are still controversial in many corners, unfortunately. We are now back in the red, apparently due to the arrival of the variant here in Henderson County, and it is concerning. We don't want to have to backtrack into lockdown or even mandatory mask regulations. And the quickest way, the best way to keep any of that from happening is to get vaccinated. So I think everybody on the court has been vaccinated, if I'm not mistaken. I would be speaking for the group and saying we encourage everybody to get a vaccine, especially if you're in a vulnerable age group. But that shouldn't be the final judgment. I think anybody who can and is eligible to get a vaccine should. And it will help our community, and it will help the people who are most in danger of suffering debilitating symptoms from COVID or its variant, or death. And it's unfortunate that in many corners the vaccine's become a political football. I don't see it that way. I think it's a public health issue. And the best data we have, the best minds we have, all indicate that the vaccine is our number one defense at this point, because the Delta variant won't be the last variant. Just like the flu, which changes every year. I don't know whether you realize, but your flu vaccines are tweaked every year to address whatever is happening with flu in our country. I'm sure the same will happen with COVID. COVID will be something that will probably live with us forever now, and we will have vaccines tweaked every year that come out to help combat it. And why wait until it becomes commonplace? Why not do it now and speed up our ability to get to enough of a immunity as a group, as a community, that we don't have to worry about going back into lockdown. So I'll leave my comments at that, but we encourage everybody to get a vaccine. We're now going to go into executive session to discuss both economic development issues that relate around acquisition of land and or other items related to an economic development project. We're also going to be discussing an issue that may result in litigation. So for those two reasons, we're going to go into executive session. We will not have a vote coming out of those that discussion. So
on those grounds, I'd make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? For anybody who wants to come hang around and be here when we adjourn, it's up to you. It won't be exciting.